Well, this is a video on chapter number 12 in the book How and Why Homeschool Math Can Be Vastly Superior to Public School Math. I'm Craig Hain, the author of this book and the CEO of Triad Math Inc. And you probably know all about me from other chapters already. And so let's talk about chapter 12, which is entitled The Future of Our Economy. And by that I mean the USA economy. And of course, who knows? Any predictions, of course, are always suspect. Anything can happen. And I start out by just the comment of, wow, what a world we live in. The 21st century economy is evolving faster and faster each year. Now, this video is being made in October of 2019. Well, here are some of the things that I want us to just we can think about. There's machine learning. That's a big subject today. And robots are part of that whole thing, where all sorts of machines now can do all sorts of things that humans used to do. Artificial intelligence is a component of that, and it's a big deal also. We have electric vehicles coming on strong. Who knows when the autonomous vehicles are going to be on top of us. The United States has recently achieved energy independence, as long as we're still using fossil fuels because of fracking, and on and on and on. And you probably know as much about this as I do. Now, what all this new economy means is there's all sorts of new jobs and new careers that are unfolding, and this is happening at a record rates. But these new jobs and careers do require new knowledge and new skills. And so that leads to the question is, what is the role of education in this new economy of the 21st century? Now, I'm not going to give you definitive answers. I want to give you food for thought, just some ideas that I have I'm thinking about. And this can change from time to time. If I write this chapter a week from now, I may change it. Or a year from now, I may change it. Well, first of all, my answer is I believe that we need to teach our students how to learn. And we need to teach them underlying knowledge that's going to be required for them to learn these new skills for these brand new careers. That's what we need to be doing. I think our current public school system is not doing a real good job of it for a lot of reasons. I focus on math, of course, but it's probably true in other arenas as well for similar reasons. Now, it is true that literacy is still important. It's been important for a long time. It was important in the old economy. It has been for a couple of centuries now. But I believe that some math, not all math, because math's a huge subject, but some math is going to become equally important in the new economy, particularly big portions of the new economy, not all of it, but portions of it. I think materacy, for many people, is going to become just as important in this new economy as literacy is. Math is sort of a universal language. We have service jobs today that need workforce math if you're going to understand them and do them. We have technical jobs that need workforce math. You're going to engage in projects that need workforce math. Now, something called quantitative reasoning is often taught in some of our schools today, but that's just a small part of workforce math. It's not a substitute for it. It's part of it. We're going to have to learn about risk assessment because as time goes on, we have to be more and more aware of what are the critical decisions we have to make. Risk assessment is very important in making good decisions. I mean, for example, the decision to fly in an airplane. What's the risk involved in that? And there are just all sorts of things. And this is where quantitative reasoning and probability thinking is going to come in. Now, there are a lot of controversial subjects today. CO2 is a big one. Carbon dioxide. Very controversial subject with global warming and climate change. And I would urge you to go see Dr. William Happer. He's a brilliant physicist from Princeton University that knows more about CO2 than anyone I know about. And you go on YouTube and look up his videos. But CO2 is a very, very interesting subject today, and I think it's going to have profound impact on some of the decisions we make for our future. Another important subject is nuclear power. We've had it for a long time, but it's out of favor now in many parts of the world, but we now have new technologies for it. And is it going to be the new world energy source? Maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I can't answer that. Right now, there's a lot of talk about solar power and wind power, and those are certainly important, but they have their severe limitations as we know at this point in time. It's hard to predict what the new economy is going to do. What about self-driving vehicles? Are they really coming soon, as a lot of people predict they are? And if they are, that's going to have a profound impact on employment. How many people earn their living driving vehicles today? What about cyber war? That's a really, really big deal. And who knows what's going to happen there? I don't know. I'm just saying these are things we have to think about. But another big thing that in the United States I think we have to think about, this is probably a worldwide problem, but particularly in the United States, what about adults that are not educated adequately? Now, I went to Google the other day and I asked Google, how many high school dropouts are there in the USA? What do you think their answer was? What do you think it was? I was absolutely amazed. I didn't have any idea it was this much. And here it is in quotes. In the USA, there is, on average, one student high school dropout every 26 seconds. That's about 7,000 per day and about 1.2 million student dropouts per year. I had no idea it was that high. Now, what are the short-term financial consequences for a high school dropout? What do you think? Both short-term and long-term, and for that matter, it's sort of on a global scale. What kind of a legal job can a high school dropout get? Boy or girl? How much can the dropout expect to earn, both short-term and long-term? What's going to be the effect on the dropout's current family? What will be the effect on the dropout's future children if the dropout has future children, and many of them do? What effects it have on the school they dropped out of? Well, we all know that school loses a lot of state funding. Every dropout. I know schools in Indiana that lose a lot of money every year because of the dropouts. And then what about the community? Well, it has an effect on the community because the dropouts, well, just think of, you just can imagine all the effects that dropouts have on the community. And then on the state itself and on the USA. Now, whatever the effect of one dropout is on all these different things, and remember, the dropout is going to have an effect on lots of people around the dropout, family and friends and so on. And then you multiply that by a million dropouts a year, more. Wow. Quite something to think about. Now, here's something else I want you to think about. Many jobs today and in the future are going to be of a technical nature. Not all jobs, but a lot of jobs, both service jobs and jobs for working for companies. There's going to be hundreds of thousands of technical jobs that will go unfilled. Just ask Google. Look at the research on it. There's probably today over 1 million unfilled technical jobs because they can't find workers that have the adequate technical knowledge to do them. Now, here's a fact of life. Learning any of these technologies generally requires some math understanding. In fact, if you go to our old company, Hain Training, and look at all the technical core jobs and instruction we did over the 2 or 3 decades we were in business, there was some math required in all of them. We cover that in workforce math. So here's the facts of life. If a student learns what I call workforce math, and go to our website to see what that is. That's not what's taught in our high school today. But if they do learn that, well, first of all, they could join the military, and that is a good way for a lot of people to go forward. Just join the military or some governmental thing, the National Guard or whatever. They can also do well in technical fields once they learn workforce math. And I've seen this in my own extended family. Perhaps a student, if they have workforce math, could get into an apprentice program or an entry-level program. And I talked about that in Chapter 11. About how if you have a good workforce math background, there are many technical jobs you can train for and earn a very good living. Because if a worker has proper technical skill, they can earn a very good living. Now, the jobs evolve with technology, so a worker has to keep up with the job. That's where you have to learn to learn. But if the worker has a good background and knows how to learn new things, that'll be possible. So I'm saying that if a worker can learn workforce math, then the worker's going to be able to learn the new technical things as life comes along. Now, just for the heck of it, let's compare the life of 2 students. One somehow has learned workforce math, maybe at school, maybe at home school, maybe on their own. And that worker has a good, well-paid career that I've described in Chapter 11, for example. Go read Chapter 11, $25 or more an hour, for example. The other's a high school dropout. And by the way, a lot of high school dropouts drop out because they get discouraged by math. There's a lot of other reasons too, and that's just one, but that certainly can be a reason. Well, here's a fact I didn't know. 80% of prisoners today, people in prison, are high school dropouts. Wow. Just imagine, 80% of prisoners are high school dropouts. Now, this does not tell us what percentage of high school dropouts go to prison. That would be a misunderstanding of math to think that. It doesn't tell us that. However, a little common sense tells us that the probability of going to prison for a high school dropout is a lot higher than it is for a high school graduate. And you can kind of figure that out and look up the statistics on it if you want to. Now, the percentage of high school graduates that go to prison, let's say, is A%. And the percentage of high school dropouts that go to prison is, say, B%. What do you think is higher, A or B? Well, of course, I would bet you that B% is much higher than A%. In other words, much higher percentage of high school dropouts go to prison than the percentage of high school graduates that do. But forget all about prison. Let's just forget about that for a moment. What kind of a material quality of life do you think a high school dropout has? And how does this spill over into the emotional and spiritual quality of their life? And then the question is, what can be done about it? Now, the facts of the matter are, I believe that many high school dropouts are quite capable of learning workforce math and then getting into a good technical career path. I believe that maybe as high as 80% of them can. I think it's a very high percentage. And if our economy is going to reach its fullest potential, then we need to deal with this high school dropout situation. It's a critical problem today. And I believe it's possible to do with the modern technologies we have available. Now, it is true that we might need to institute some sort of a freedom dividend like Andrew Yang, the Democratic presidential nominee, or not nominee, but candidate, is proposing. We might have to do that. And that would be fine if we did something like that, because what that is designed to do is to empower an adult then to get into a good upward path of progress. So I think that's what we have to think about today, the things I've talked about in this chapter. I've asked a lot of questions. I've asked more questions than I've given answers. But one of the things I've talked about specifically is high school dropouts. So the readers of this book, I think, could possibly help if they know a high school dropout, and if they can help that high school dropout get onto a good path by educating them on the things that I've discussed, both in chapters 11 and this 12, then I think they can help them. And what better good could you do if you could help a high school dropout get on a good career path? To me, that would be the golden rule on steroids. In fact, I invite you to contact me, and I'll help you with this endeavor if you have one, for workforce math in particular. Now, nothing's free in life, but we could arrange it so that the beneficiary, the high school dropout, could pay for it out of future earnings that will accrue from his or her new abilities. It can be a win-win-win situation for everybody concerned. So this is Craig Hain. I hope this is giving you some food for thought. I've asked more questions than I've answered, and just as we all do, but I think the future can be very bright if we all do our best to do it and make it as bright as we can make it, doing the things we've talked about. So I'll see you on another video.